Over the past year, my company sent 250,000 cold emails, not including all the outbound we're helping our 105 active clients with. And in this video, I'm going to break down everything I know about cold emails so that you can apply it to your business and start getting more appointments. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how to never go to spam. So I'm going to give you literally my exact cold email infrastructure that we use to send out over 1,300 emails per day just for ourselves and have a reply rate of over 5% on average. I'm going to put like an instantly video screenshot up there so you can see that this is actually real. Okay, this is literally what we do. So we have 2 email inboxes per domain that we set up. Okay, not any more than that. We have 8 new emails that we send per day per inbox, and what I mean by new emails is like contacting new leads. So if we follow up to someone, I'm not including that, we follow up a total of 2 times after the initial email. So in total we send out basically 24 cold emails per day per inbox. Okay, so if you're only doing one main one and then one follow-up, you could do 12 per thing, right? The next thing is we send out 20 warm-up emails per day with a 40% reply rate. We have a 2-week warm-up period where when we actually get the email account, we set up the domain, we set up the email, everything's good to go. We have a 2-week warm-up period. We increase by 1 new warm email per day until it's at 20. So in total, that will take about 20, but we start sending cold emails after day 14. And then we have, this isn't really relevant to how like the actual infrastructure, but we have a total of 165 inboxes. And obviously because of that, we're able to send 1,320 new leads per day, right? And that approximately books us about 10 appointments per day. And then 80% of our inboxes are Google inboxes. So a lot of people will heavily emphasize the provider matching between Outlook to Outlook and Google to Google. The fact is that stuff changes so rapidly in terms of like what works better. Right now, Google as of May 2025, just Google works great. That wasn't the case 5 months ago. So I personally just have 80% of Google inboxes and 20% Microsoft inboxes. We don't worry about provider matching too much. If anything changes, then we will change, but that's currently what we do. In terms of setting up SPF, DMARC, DKIM, etc., that's all more technical stuff that I'm not going to cover specifically in this video. But what we actually do in order to set that up is we have a done-for-you provider that basically does it all for us, and they charge $3.50 per inbox, so it's very cheap. It's cheaper than actually setting it up yourselves. If you want to check them out, the company is called Premium Inboxes. I'll put a link to that in the description if you guys want to check it out. It is an affiliate link, but I found it super helpful, so you can use it if you want. The second thing is friction, and this is extremely, extremely important, okay? So this is probably not something that you thought of before. Now, my best performing email campaign of all time that we're currently running right now literally has 2 sentences of email body copy and a PS line. So it's, hi John, 2 emails, or 2 sentences, and then best Josh, PS line. That is the whole email, okay? So this is why this works, okay? Is because you've probably heard, like when it comes to like ads or like funnels, you've probably heard this, and like CRO, you've probably heard this, right? Is that an increase at the top of funnel will disproportionately increase the total throughput of the funnel, right? So let's say if you have a 20% opt-in rate, if you can get that opt-in rate to 30%, you 1.5x the entire campaign from there on out, right? That will give you a disproportionate return of just like, right, 1.5xing the last little step. And it's also, well, not actually, it would be the same, right? But it's a lot more difficult overall to increase a later part of the funnel by like a larger amount, typically, right? So essentially, people don't really think of this properly when it comes to cold email. So people will think when you're talking about the first metric that you should be tracking, like the first and foremost metric, other than like open rate, which no one really tracks because it hurts deliverability, but is the reply rate, right? People say, okay, I have a high reply rate, therefore, I have a low reply rate, therefore I need to I need to do something in my copy to improve my reply rate, or I have a high reply rate, therefore my copy is perfectly fine, right? But there's more to it than that. So there is something that you can't really track this, but the thing that you have to look at between the open rate and the reply rate is actually something that I just made up 5 minutes ago called the read rate, right? But it makes sense. It's not a metric that you can actually track, but if you think about it, there's only, like, of the people that reply, they have to read the email first, and people don't consider this. People think that if your reply rate is low, that's either because of deliverability. Let's say your open rate's high and your reply rate's low, so your deliverability is fine. Then it means there's something that's wrong with the way that you're presenting your offer in the body copy, right? But what might be the case is there's nothing wrong with what you're saying in your email. What your email is saying might be absolutely fine, but nobody is reading it because it looks like this long thing that nobody cares about, right? So people don't, like, obviously this read rate thing I made up because it can't be tracked, right? But when you're optimizing for a higher reply rate, you have to think about the fact that no matter how good your offer is, if no one reads it, right, which is going to be most people are not going to read it because your thing is so long and people don't want to give you the attention, right? Because attention is a very valuable currency. It's time. It's all people have. So you have to optimize for not only making your messaging powerful, but also making it something that people will actually take the time to read because it's not so demanding, right? There's something that I call the escalation of commitment, where you have to get buy-in lower levels of commitment at a time, right? You're not gonna ask, this is why you're not gonna ask someone to make like a high ticket sale from your like initial, like your first sentence from your cold email, right? You need to get smaller amounts of buy-in before you can continue to actually sell them something, right? So first you have to get them to open the email. Then you have to get them to read the email. Then you have to get them to be interested in the email. If they're not going to be interested in the email, if they haven't first decided that this email is worth reading, and to get them to believe that the email is worth reading, easiest way to do that is just to have not much to read, right? So that's basically what we do. And my strategy doesn't work because, I mean, my copy is good, right? But that's not like the main thing. The main reason why our emails work isn't because it's so like the messaging is like so powerful and the offer is so good. It's just because everyone reads it. Okay, so that's really important. The third thing is going to be based on conversion. Okay, so actually converting the people who are interested into obviously appointments, into clients, etc. Right? So this was something that we did for one of our clients. So he is targeting local businesses for his SEO agency, right? So he does local SEO. Now, what we ended up doing, what his problem was, is he was getting some amount of replies, but they just were not converting. So what we actually did was we implemented looms into his cold email. So we would help him send personalized looms. Now this strategy doesn't work for every single market. Typically what I found looms work the best for is like more underdeveloped industries where a lot of them aren't used to like this tech stuff. Like if you send a loom to a marketing agency, they've already seen it like 100 times. So it doesn't really work as well there. But if you're doing this for like local businesses in like Europe, it works extremely well, and that's where he was targeting, right? So what we were able to do for him is go from 2 to 12 appointments per week, right? Now the way that we actually did this was when someone views a loom, you can essentially see that they viewed the loom, right? And what you can do is you can set up a notification inside Slack whenever someone sees one of your looms. And what we ended up helping them do was we built out a system where within 5 minutes, for every single person that clicked the loom video, that viewed the loom video, we would call them, right? What this allowed us to do was capture pretty much every single person that was viewing the loom. Because if they had time to view a loom from some random dude that emailed them, if it was in that same 5 minute period, they would probably have time to pick up a call from someone random who's calling them, right? And what we were able to do, right, was we were able to say, hey, I saw you were watching our loom. Were you looking to get more? Were you looking to get more clients in your area, right? Whatever the area was. And they're like, oh, wow, that's really impressive that you guys just called me. I was just watching your loom. It's like, go figure, right? And they had a really high booking rate on that. And they haven't really scaled yet. They're only sending 200 emails a day because they like can't really handle the demand at the moment. But as soon as they can, that number is obviously going to go up, right? So that was really powerful. And this is the same thing that we've done for ourselves, right? So I made a video on this last week specifically covering this. If you want to check that out after this, you can. But like literally what we did, this doubled our appointment booking rate. Obviously, like I told you recently about the friction side of things, making a super low barrier to entry, just trying to farm as much interest as we can. We literally called every single positive response that we got, which was about 2 to 3%. And if you're sending about 1,000 emails a day, which we are, we make about 25 dials a day or 30 dials a day on that. And we will call every single person that replies to our email within 10 minutes and try and book them in. And by doing that, we've gone from 5 appointments per day to about 10 appointments per day. And we probably would be able to do more than that, but like we have one rep, and we also have a whole nother system that's generating us another 10 appointments a day. So we can't handle that right now, right? But I'm sure this would do a lot more than just double if we actually had more availability, right? So if you literally just like put the effort in, and obviously this requires effort, right? You have to do this yourself, or you have to hire someone who can just call, like their whole job can just be to sit and wait inside of the Instantly Uni box and just call people as soon as they respond. But when you do the thing that most people aren't willing to do, you get the results that most people do not get. And as cliche as that sounds, it's very true, right? Now, if you want me to help you actually install these systems into your business, because obviously hiring SDRs and building scripts and actually building processes around this can be difficult. That's literally what my whole business does. You can click the link in the description to find out more. If you don't care, that's fine. But I thought I'd leave it out there. Now, number 4 is volume. So this is something that I learned a long time ago, but I only implemented recently. So people think of return on ad spend, like ROAS, right, with ads, but they don't really think of it with email for some reason. And maybe because return on ad spend is in the word, but it's just fundamentally, it's like an ROI on the investment that you put in specifically towards ads, right? But people don't calculate this really with emails, right? So if you're spending, for example, $500 a month on your cold emails and you're generating 2 clients per month that are paying you $1,500 per month each, why aren't you spending like $5,000 a month on cold email, right? You 10x your input, you 10x your output. But people for some reason don't think in this way. And I've also fallen prey to this. But yeah, this is literally the truth. So I'll give you an example. And this is just like a general business advice. Is typically what I found is the people who are more aggressive with inputs are the people who scale faster and the people who get results faster. So I have a friend who's also in the same space as me. We do a very similar kind of agency. And we were both sending about 100 emails per day. This was like back in the day, like, well, not back in the day, maybe like a year ago. But we were both sending like 100 emails a day, right? And the difference between us was we both saw the same results because we were basically running the same email, right? We were getting like a 1% booking rate, maybe a little bit less than that. We were booking like 1 out of every 150 emails that we would send, right? As soon as we found that metric out, we both came to a similar conclusion, but different actions taken after that. We're both obviously we're like, okay, this works. Let's scale it, right? We both thought that. I increased the amount of emails I'm sending. Perfect. We're going to double it. I increased it to 200 emails a day. He increased it to 1,000 emails a day. He literally 10x'd his email volume overnight. And I thought that was very interesting. I'm like, well, why am I not doing that? And anyways, I ended up still not doing it for some reason. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. So that happened, right? Then recently-ish, like 2 or 3 months ago, I talked to someone in the cold email space. I paid him for his coaching, and he's a lot better than me at cold email. And I'm like, hey, this is my cold email script. This is my campaign. What do you think I should do? And he told me that like my campaigns were doing better than like basically all of his clients. And he told me I just needed to do more. So I was sending 200 or 300 emails a day at the time. And he said you should send an email to every single person in your entire market every 2 to 3 months. So I did the calculation. I'm like, okay, there's like about 150,000 people in my niche. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll send like 40,000 emails a month. So now we're doing that. We're sending 1,300 emails every single day. And go figure, we 4x the email input, we 4x the amount of appointments that we're getting from email, right? So it sounds very basic and rudimentary, but this happened with one of my clients as well. Like he was getting like a 4% booking rate from his LinkedIn campaign, and he was like, Josh, how can I'm only getting like whatever, I think he was getting like 40 meetings a month. I'm getting 40 meetings a month. I need to do more than this. How do I increase the booking rate on my LinkedIn's? And he was sending like 40 LinkedIn's a day or something. It's like, dude, you're not sending anything. You should be sending 400 LinkedIn outreach a day. Because you can only you can spend all of this time and energy to try and get your LinkedIn booking rate to like 5% and increase your results by 25%. Or you can just do 10 times the amount of outreach, right? And that will probably 10x the amount of appointments that you get, right? And he had a fairly big niche, so that was absolutely doable. And now he's in the process of doing that, and he's getting a lot more appointments, right? Go figure. So number 5, personalization. So basically you can't just send a generic message anymore and like expect it to work very well, right? It just doesn't really happen very much nowadays when everyone is capable of using AI to do this. So you kind of have to join them, right? So I'll give you an example. There's two things that you need to factor into when it comes to personalization. Number one is ideally, you have to make it relevant. And if you can't make it relevant, you should just do something like a generic personalization. So I'll show you what I mean by relevant, right? So the personalization should have something to do with your offer. So like it should be related to what you're actually talking about. So for example, one of my clients, he does cold emails for solar companies, and what he's basically like on behalf of solar companies, he's sending cold emails. Like he's sending cold emails to try and like sell solar panels, basically, right? So what he's doing is he's personalizing every email with the square feet of the roof of the location that he's trying to sell solar to, right? So he would email like, "Hey, I saw your like whatever like city location, um, and your roof looks like it's about this amount of square feet," right? Now it's like a weird thing to kind of personalize, but it is related to the offer, right? Which is like based on the amount of square feet, the amount of value the solar is going to provide, right? So that is one thing that he does, right? One thing that we do is we personalize our outreach based on our clients or our prospects' case studies, right? So what we do is we have an AI agent in Clay. I would recommend Clay to do this, by the way. Goes through our prospects' websites, finds their case studies, finds their name, and finds the results that they got, right? So here's an example. So, hey, I saw that you helped John the roofer get an extra 8 roofs in the last 2 days or whatever, right? If I could get you right connected with an extra 2 to 3 similar companies every week, would you be open to chat? Right? That's like basically the email that we do. So we're using the case study that he had and saying we can help him get something similar, right? So it's directly related to what we can help him do. And it is obviously very short and it works really well, right? Another thing that we can do is I have a client who does Google reputation management. And what he does is he will have a AI scraper that scrapes negative reviews on Google, right? So we can scrape their Google profile, we get their email, we get their website, we get their phone number, all that jazz. And we get their Google reviews, like each individual reviews. What we can find is the lowest review, and we can say, "Hey, I was looking at your Google reviews and I saw Joe left a negative comment about XYZ. And then like I was wondering if you wanted to get it removed, basically, right? And it's a pretty no-brainer offer. So we get a lot of replies there, right? And we do omni-channel targeting with like text and email and all that good stuff. But that's the base personalization that we do, right? So if you're in e-commerce, again, we have a few e-commerce clients, and they'll talk about like new product lines, for example, like, "Hey, I saw you're releasing your new product line." And they obviously state the name of the product line, and we use Google, we use different AIs to scrape the new products that they have. I was wondering if you have a X% checkout rate on that product, right? If not, we can help you get that guaranteed. And it's like, well, that's a no-brainer offer if you don't have that, right? Obviously. So again, these are just multiple different examples. You're gonna have to look at your industry specifically and see what's gonna make the most sense. We'll build you a table if you want, if you work with us. But yeah, that's just kind of one of the things that we help with. If you have nothing relevant to say, now there's like some industries where it's like hard to find something that's related in a research that you could find to your offer. There's most of them you can find something related, but if you can't, it's better to just use something generic. And some specific companies you won't be able to find anything. Like for us, some people don't have like case studies on their website. So then what we do is we just do something generic, and we talk about like a LinkedIn post that they made, for example, and that works really well. Or you can talk about like a LinkedIn recommendation. Or you can talk about like something like you can scrape their website in their about section and like find out a little bit of like nuances about their company and say, "Hey, saw your guys's culture is about this, really related to me, blah blah blah," right? Or something like that, and that works better than not doing anything at all. And then the most important thing, and the last thing I want to talk about here is omni-channel targeting. So what most people try and do is they will just send an email and then they will wait for a reply and then they will respond back and then try and get them to book, right? That's very standard. What is happening here is you are only getting the people you are targeting that are active on email, right? Which is probably most people, right? But there's going to be a lot of people who maybe they are active on email, but they just don't reply to cold emails, right? They have like whatever inherent thing that they just do not reply to emails. And some people will reply better on email. Some people specifically will reply better on LinkedIn. Some people will reply better on the phone. Some, like, different people reply better on different channels, right? That makes sense. So if you have other information that you get from scraping this lead, right, other than their email, you should use it, right? So we scrape directly from LinkedIn, and then we find their email from LinkedIn. So guess what we do? We also target the same people on LinkedIn, and we send about 600 or 800 connection requests every day on LinkedIn, right? Because we have the infrastructure to be able to do that, and we built that infrastructure so that we can reach out to these people on multiple different places. And you don't get people, oh, I saw you already reached out to me on email. It's like they don't remember. And also it's like from a different name too. So they can't even connect the dots unless they booked a call. And then we just remove them from the other funnel. This is very, very, very easy to do. And literally it will double your booking rate, if not more, depending on how active people are on a certain channel. So again, take our solar client, for example. Like, we recently helped him take his whole email campaign for his clients for solar, because we already have their LinkedIn profiles, retarget those same people on LinkedIn, and guess what? We're booking double the amount of appointments from email as we are on LinkedIn, right? Go figure. Crazy. Now, the hard part is actually getting the amount of LinkedIn accounts to be able to do that at a high scale, which, again, that's just something that can be figured out. That's something that we've done, which is why we send so many LinkedIn outreach a day. But that's something that we help them with, for example, right? Another one of our clients, like I was telling you before, the one that called people on their on their phone after they watched the Loom, we can also retarget and just like reach out to the same people on like text outreach or WhatsApp outreach, right? If you're in Europe, it works in North America too, but less people have WhatsApp, right? Still works. So if you have their Facebook, like, use it. Like, you already have paid for these leads, so you should use them to the most amount of ability as you can, right? I don't even know if that makes sense, but that's what we do, and it works really well. All right. If you enjoyed this, you can sub or whatever. I'll see you in the next one.